Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. I appreciate you being here on this Monday as we get ready to craft something really fun. Today, we're going to be making something a little different than a card. We're going to be doing a money holder. And I know I do a lot of gift card holders, but I'm old school. Let's figure, I still write checks occasionally and I like to give cash. And this would be perfect for doing just that. So this little holder here will hold dollar bills or checks or it can hold a gift card if you want, but it's made a little bit bigger so that it can accommodate other things. So we're going to do this one, and then I'm going to pull out the wildflower birthday, and we're going to do that one as well. And then I'm going to also show you what we're doing on Thursday, and I'm going to show you the new packaging for Stampin' Up's new stamps. And we're going to do a little trick about how you can store those and a little trick for making sure you have them all. So stay tuned. I have lots of fun stuff, and I can't wait to get started. So here we are down on my desk. As I said, we're going to be using this traditional labels. And I got this because I really like the fact that it's got lots of different sayings. It can do different things other than Christmas. I mean, it's mostly Christmas, but there's other things we can do with it. But most of all, these dies, I can use these year round. And so I really like dies that I can use all the time. Patricia says I'm just plain old. Yeah, me too. Okay, so here is what we're going to start out with. And for our Christmas version, I'm starting out with a piece of Pretty Peacock that is 6 3/4 by 8, scored at 3 and 5.5. Okay, so that's going to get us our little holder here. So this bottom, the smaller side, let's see, this way. Gosh, what am I doing wrong? Come on, I know I did this. The little part's gonna go up. Ugh. 3 and 5.5 on the long side. This is not coming together right. I apologize. I am normally much more together than this, as you know. So 3, 5.5. Okay, and then 8. Okay, so is that my thing? Am I too long? This is just silly. Oh, okay, 2.5, not 3. I was looking at this right here when I measured out, and it's actually my score lines up here. So I apologize. This first score line is 2.5. Okay, so I'm going to bring this back in. We're going to score that at 2.5. Okay, now I'm not going to worry about the fact that now I'm going to have that extra score line. What a pain in the butt. Because it's actually, I don't know that anybody's really going to see it, because that's going to fold up and it's going to touch it right there. Now, if I was worried about them seeing it on the back, I think what I could do is I could just die cut or cut another piece of designer series paper, or even take another piece of the Pretty Peacock and maybe dry emboss it, so I could put it on the back and make like I kind of did that on purpose. So I apologize for making a goof, but I know sometimes you guys like it when I goof, because then I show you how I fix it. So hopefully that's the case today. So I'm going to start over again. We're going to start with a piece of cardstock that is 6 3/4 by 8. Okay, and then we're going to score that at 2.5 and 5.5. Let me even correct my little notes here. I even had notes and still wrote it down wrong. Okay, so then I have these pieces to decorate it. So I have some pieces of designer series paper, and I'm using this beautiful Christmas paper. And I've got 2 different patterns out of the same pack. Grab that one while I'm over here. I remember what this is. This is Elegant Pine Snowflakes. Okay, so this has got some beautiful colors in it. Anytime you have our designer series paper on the back, it's going to tell you all the colors that are used in this. So that's how I pull out my colors and know what I'm working with. I will usually take my color swatches and then I pull out those colors that it was talking about. It mentioned cherry cobbler and what was it, old olive, garden green, and old olive. Okay, so, but I would pull out these colors and then decide what I wanted to work with. Okay, and that's how I ended up with the fact that my base is pretty peacock. Okay, so anytime you're going to be using your designer series paper, you want to look at the back, see what colors are included in there, and then lay these up against the colors that you're going to be working with, and then pick which one you want. Okay. There. Okay, so to decorate my little money holder here, I have a piece of cardstock that's actually going to flush right up to my score line. Okay, so normally my pieces are 1/4 of an inch smaller, and this is actually less than that because I wanted the border on the bottom down here. So I have a border down here, but I don't have one up across the top. Okay, so this is 2 3/8 by 6.5. For my one down here, I do want that border all the way around. So this is going to be 2 1/4 by 6.5. So it's got that 1/8 of an inch difference that's going to allow me to butt this one all the way to the top and not have that up there. Now, if you wanted to, you could have that border up there, but I opted not to have it. Susan says it's because I'm live. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. More mistakes happen when I'm live than in person for sure. Okay. So this piece, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and attach it right on the bottom. So I'm going to give it a little bit of liquid glue. And I'm just giving it a little bit, but I'm going all the way around the edges. I want to make sure that I am all the way to the edge with my glue, but I don't want too much glue. That's why I'm using the My Sweet Petunia glue press, because it gives me that super fine line, because I want to make sure that it's all the way to the edge so that nothing in the corners are lifting. But I don't want too much adhesive. Anytime you use too much adhesive on designer series paper, it's going to warp because it's going to get a little too wet and it's not going to like that. Okay, I have, this piece of white up at the top. That's going to be the same as my front one. So this is 2 3/8 by 6.5. And so that's going to go up here. So we're doing the reverse there. We're making it come down to the score line and then have the border just on the top. Okay, then I wanted to round my corners. So I'm going to round the corners on 2 sides. Yeah, there's no direction. Okay, I wanted to make sure. And I'm just bringing in my old Stampin' Up! Corner rounder. We don't sell one at the moment. Hopefully you have one from before. If you don't, this is a step you don't necessarily have to do. You can also gently round corners by using one of our punches, and anything that's got a little bit of a rounding in there, you can stick your paper into it and punch down. What you would want to do though is you would want to put both of your cardstock and your designer series paper flush up to both sides and then nip it so that they're both going to be at exactly the same angle. So when you back it down, your angle will be the same here as on top. Does that make sense? Because it's going to be unlikely that you're going to stick them in separately and get exactly the same cut. But with the corner rounder that we used to have, it has little ledges on either side that it butts up against, and that's what makes sure that you are exactly in the same spot on the outside and the inside. Okay. So this is already bothering me that it's got that extra score line. So I'm going to put some extra something on the back here. Like I said, we can take an extra piece of cardstock and use that as a reinforcement, or we can use a piece of designer series paper and use that as a little bit of enforcement. Let's see, it's going to be, this is 3 inches by 6 3/4. So we're going to go 6 1/2 by 2 3/4. Okay. 2 3/4. Go 6 1/2. And you know me, when I put something together, I tend to put a lot of the layers on that don't really require anything, no stamping or whatever, so that I have less little pieces on my desk so that things are less likely to get in my way or get lost. Okay, so there we go. They're starting to come together. Then I want a little bit of a notch here. And again, that's where you would take any kind of a punch. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of a notch. Okay, so that's going to give that little finger opening there. And then I'm going to put some adhesive on the sides. You know, I have fingernails, so I usually don't have a problem. But those of you who do have issues pulling this off, that's where the take your pick tool can come in very handy. Just lifts that right off. We can close that up. And there's that part. Now what we want to do is we want to do our stamping. Oh, and we're going to need to die cut our pieces for this. We have our belly band pieces. So I'm going to punch a 2 3/8 inch circle for behind the label. And then I'm going to die cut the label from our traditional labels dies here. And so I've got a piece here that is 3 1/4 by 2 1/8, roughly. I'm going to load up my little mini cut and emboss machine, and my ugly plate is going to go on the bottom. That's the one that's going to take all the abuse, because the part that cuts is down here, and that's going to make some little cuts in the plastic plate or acrylic plate, whatever this is. But I'm going to use a nice clean one on the top. And so that's going to make it feed through a little easier and make it less likely to warp. Of course, each time I run it through, I flip top for bottom, so it's getting even wear. And I'm also going to move the die around the plate so that it hits different areas. We don't want it always cutting in exactly the same spot. Bring in the stamps, and I'm going to use the to and from. So there's one, here's the other. And then I want Merry and Christmas. Okay, to ensure that it's going to fit onto my label here, I'm going to just kind of lay it out. I'm very happy with that. It's going to be a little tight in the corner, so I'm going to make sure I'm going to go high up in here. And then I wanted my to and from to be the same on the side, so I'm going to use my grid paper here, and I'm aligning the edge of the T on one of the grid lines going this way, and then I'm aligning this grid line to go under the T and the O. So this is going to ensure that I have the right placement before I ink it up and go stamp. And I'm looking at a little bit of an angle, so forgive me if I don't get this exactly right. What you want to do when you're from home, you want to stand up and you want to look straight down from the top, because that's where you're going to get the straightest angle and make sure that you are indeed exactly where you want to be. I'm going to use Pretty Peacock ink, since that's the cardstock we're using, so we're all color coordinated. That came out pretty good. I'm happy with that. Okay, and then I try to line this one up. And because they are tight, I'm going to mount them separately. If I had a little more wiggle room, I might mount them together and stamp them as one piece. But there is a little bit of an edge that would run into each other. And I think if I take that out of the equation, I'm going to be able to fit them tighter together. Again, you're going to have your best impression standing up, looking straight down. There we go. Make sure I clean those stamps, because we're going to be making another one, which is a good thing considering I did a goof. Maybe we can make the second one without the goof. Okay. Okay, now you'll notice my designer series paper isn't the same length as my belly band. That's going to be okay, because look at how much room the circle is going to take up. So if my designer series paper doesn't totally meet back there, that circle is going to cover it up, no problem. So we're not going to have any issues there. Oops. Knocked my die on the floor. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of center it, I think. And then while my glue is still moist, I'm going to take and wrap this around because it will allow it to give it a little bit of a bend. Because if you watch me on my other stuff, I will have a tendency to glue one end of my designer series paper and then wrap it and then adhere the other end. The liquid glue gives me a little wiggle time, so it does stretch, but it's going to move a little bit because the distance between the edges is just a hair longer on my designer series paper than the cardstock. You know what I mean? It's giving that allowance for the cardstock to be underneath there. But see how I've got this little bit of a gap in the middle? That's really not going to make a difference. I'm going to come back with some seal because I want this to dry quickly so we can move forward. I'm going to center that on there. And we're going to center this right there. Okay. And then our to and from is going to go up on top. Hi, Melanie. Melanie took me up on my offer to join our creative royalty team because right now Stampin' Up! Is offering an awesome deal where you can get $125 worth of product for just $35, or you can get $189 for $99, which is a little less percentage-wise discount, you know, the accounting brain in me says. But if you're looking to get the cut and emboss machine and you've been disappointed because you couldn't add it to a kit before, now you can. So you can add the cut and emboss machine plus like $49 worth of other product and still pay $125. So it's a way to get that cut and emboss machine discounted and added to a kit. Okay, so I just went ahead and added some of our cherry cobbler and pearl berries to accent that. So there is our Christmas one. Now I'm going to come back in and we're going to do one for a birthday. So I'm going to bring in the Wildflower Birthday. I think this paper is just beautiful, and they're discontinuing it. It's on the last chance list. I'm like so bummed. And I just got a repeat of it because I used up all my little pieces. I love all the little flowers and cakes and all these fun things that you can put on the front of your card. So I'm going to use the little cupcake. Oh, there go the dogs. I apologize. They're barking. Okay, so let's see. What do we want to use? So I'm going to use this one. So again, we're looking at Pretty in Pink, Pool Party. We have some gold. So pulling out of these colors, I'm going to go ahead and grab Pretty in Pink and Pool Party. And then we're going to cut our base down. So I'm going to bring in the trimmer once again. And I'm going to use my notes, which should be good. But I want this to be 6 3/4. by 8. And then remember, we're going to score this at 2.5, not 3, 2.5, and 5.5. Ooh, shoot. Okay. You want to use the right blade. I'm just having a Monday, aren't I? Okay, 6 3/4 by 8. Okay, then we're going to 2.5 and 5.5 for our score lines. Oh, and then we have some designer series paper. And so we want this to be 6.5 this way, because it's going to be wide. Two 3/8. So that's going to be just before 2.5. Then we're going to go 2 1/4. Oh, and then we're going to want a 1-inch strip for our belly band. Okay. And then this one's going to be 1 1/4. By 6.5. Oh, and then we need a basic white. Two 3/8. By 6.5. Bring in our pretty in pink and punch a circle out of that. And this time I'm going to do a 2-inch circle on top, because I think that's going to go better with our little cupcake. Place that inside. Okay, so here we go. We're going to burnish on those score lines. This is going to be our pocket on the bottom. So we're going to take our narrower piece, and that's going to go down here. And then you want to decide what pattern you want to use. So we can either use the cakes both ways, or the stripes on the outside, or the stripes on the inside. I think I'm going to go that way and then use my stripe out here. Oh, although it does fall right along the cake line, that's fun. Just on a fluke, it lined up the cakes perfectly centered in the middle. How fun is that? It's $99 for the $189 worth of product. and it's $35 to get $125 worth. So either way, what you're ending up with is $90 in free product, which is a pretty amazing deal. Oops. So on the bottom here, that's where I want my notch. So let's find our heartfelt hexagon. Kind of find our center. Keeping my cakes right side up. Now again, if you wanted to round the corners, you would want to do that before you adhere it. I'm going to do one without rounding the corners so you can see the difference. But we're still going to take our to and from. Okay, so remember I'm lining it up with the score line on the bottom, leaving my border on the top. See how pretty? If we had used another one of these papers, we could have gone with the check or even the soft seafoam. I mean, a lot of these others we could have used, and we could have easily turned this into a baby shower gift. How cute would that be? And I'm gonna, with the liquid glue, I'm just gonna center it on there and try to move quickly so that I can get my bends in there before it's too stuck down. And I'm just wrapping around. And we're going to adhere it right in the middle. I'm going to go back to the liquid glue so I can get up in that candle so that my candle is actually attached. Normally I prefer the seal, but I don't know. somebody asked me, like, what's your favorite adhesive? Well, I don't really have one because it all depends on what I'm doing. When I'm making boxes and things, I really prefer the tear and tape. When I'm, doing things that are embellishments or, buttons or ribbons or something, I'll be using glue dots. If I want wiggle time or I want to get up in something really skinny like that, it's going to be liquid. I use them all. I know it's weird. I don't have a favorite. They're all fantastic. So there is our birthday money holder, and here is our Christmas one. And then, as I said, we were coming back on Thursday for another fun fold card, only we're going to go simple. And so that's going to be this one here. It's an angled stand-up card, and so I'm going to show you a really cool trick for how to get these angles cut. Super easy. And I promised to show you our new packaging and a trick. So here is our new packaging. All Stampin' Up stamps and dies and everything are all going to come in cases like these, like our dies do currently, I guess, or in the past have come, but they're all going to be the same size so that they will be, or as much as they can, make them the same size. I did hear one was a little larger, but just because there were so many dies, they couldn't fit it all in there. But they're all going to be consistent sizes so that we can store them easier. And it's going to take up a whole lot less room. I don't know if you've been stamping as long as I have, but I remember when we moved from the clamshell cases to the DVD cases, I was so excited because they take up so much less room. And now these are going to take up even less. And so they're going to say either the photopolymer stamp set or they're going to be the dies. Remember, we're getting rid of the red rubber. But then they're going to come like this. Okay, and so I mean, unless you look at the outside, you're not really going to know what stamps belong in here and how they go back in, or maybe even sometimes you want to know how they, if it's a large stamp set, you want to know what, coordination they put in there so that it all fits. And in the past, they've been printed on the inside of the cover, and they're not doing that anymore. So what I saw done was somebody took and just adhered this harder plastic side or acetate side down over here. And then I'm going to pull off this flimsy cover. Okay, and then we're going to ink up those stamps. Let's grab something basic. We'll do basic gray. We're going to gently ink up all the stamps, and then we're going to fold this closed and pick it up over here. And so now we know where all of the stamps go that go in here. And this will normally take a little bit of time to dry because it is a glossy paper. So it will smear if you start messing with it too quickly by, rubbing. But another way we can protect that is we can put some adhesive on the back of this clear piece. And then I'm going to set that back on here where it came from. Close this up again. And now that piece is going to cover up where all that stuff was stamped. And so now we can watch the inside here to know where everything goes. So if you've been using a stamp, you can put it over here, close it up, and it's going to put it right back here. How fun is that? So that's just a super fun trick for how to know which stamps go in what case and how they all fit. Like, how awesome is that? I can't remember the gal who came up with it. I saw it on some reel that like flashed through my feed. And when I tried to go back and find it again, I couldn't find it. But I did remember enough to show you guys how that works. And I thought it was super cool. So thank you to everyone for coming and sharing your afternoon with me and playing around with stamps, ink, and paper. And like I said, we will be back on Thursday with another fun fold card. And I've actually flagged this end over here using that hexagon, and I'm going to show you how we do that. So come back on Thursday. I'll see you then. Bye.